Welcome back, everyone. We are really making some progress here. I hope you are starting to feel like you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel because we are getting so close. We are ready to start installing frets. As we progress, every step is kind of a lead in to the next one. And our next step is only as good as our previous steps. There are a lot of things that we can do to make those corrections, and I hope that I've done an okay job of telling you what those things are, what to look for ahead of time, and how we can correct things previous. But as much work as we can do preparing for the next steps, we're going to be so much better off. And taking a little bit of time to make a small correction or being able to just get something a little more correct is going to pay off in the end, I promise. And if you have any questions, I hope that you are commenting or messaging me so we can get those looked into and get those questions answered so that you can feel good about how things are going and how we can get on to the next step. And I say all that because we are getting ready to install our frets. A fret job, just like anything else that we've done so far, is totally dependent on how we've prepped. If we haven't done some of those things correctly, then our fret job is not going to be good. That prep work is so key and so important. So I hope that you feel like you've done a good job of preparing for this, especially in that fretboard, getting that saddle right, getting our radius correct, getting our level correct. All of those things are going to make your fret job easier, more accurate, and it's going to make this guitar just that much more enjoyable to play. And if you haven't done those things correctly, hopefully we can either correct for those in the end, or when we get to the end, you will have a better understanding of what could have been done better in these steps leading up to that to make it better next time. A couple of things to note on this fretwork. Number one is that this is a new fret job. This is going to be a little bit different than if you were reinstalling frets. This is not really meant to be a tutorial on a refret, but really starting from scratch. Refrets are a little more delicate, and especially on the removal process. We could do a video series on that later, but this is just for a brand new fret install and getting things prepared. It's similar, but it's not quite the same. I like to treat this fret install a little bit like an assembly line. There's a lot of repetition, and there are some things that we want to do in the beginning to make our lives easier at the end. And it's a lot of a process. Each fret is a process. And rather than going through steps 1, 2, 3, 4 on this fret and then starting over 1, 2, 3, 4, I do like to assembly line this to a certain extent. To make that easier for myself, I have a fret holder that I've just labeled 1 through 20 something up here, a little longer ones for my baritones and basses that I'll need more for. But I start up here and I just cut mine off and put them in this slot. You certainly don't have to do that. If you can keep them organized some other way, that's great. Or if you really want to just cut yours off and then install it right away, that's fine too. Your fret wire from your LMI kit should have come in a roll. If you've gotten it somewhere else that is a flat stock, just straight bars,
putting a radius in it will make your installation
let's say this was straight.
A lot easier.
And you can grab it just above the barbs here and kind of pull it over and rotate it through your hand and pre-radius these. That's kind of important to do. We really want to have that radiused a little bit because our fretboard is radiused. And if we try pushing down flat fret wire into this, we're going to have a really difficult time having those edges stick, especially if your fretboard is bound and we have those little pieces sticking over the side of the binding, they really don't want to stick if they aren't radiused already. All right, let's start up here at the first fret. I like to have this sticking over about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit longer, but not too much longer in either direction. I use my fret snips, which are ground on one side. You can just take a nipper from the hardware store and grind that flat so that we can get a good grab up against it. There's one. If you have too much overhang and you're cutting too much off for any of these frets, you could end up a little short at the end. Here are my frets, 1 through 22. I've got 22 to the end. Now I need to check my depth. One of the most important tools that you need is free. Snip off a couple inches from what the fret wire that you have left, and use your nippers to just put a little crease about a 1/2 inch in, right on the tang. Let's see if we can see this. So this part, this bottom part sticking down that goes into the fretboard is the tang. And you can see these little marks on the side. Those are the barbs. Those are what help your fretboard actually stick in and hold into that ebony. So we're going to nip the tang right there. Grab onto it just above the barbs like this and bend it. And now I'm going to grind off those barbs so this is nice and thin, so it's the same width as our fretboard. Now both sides of this should be smooth without any of those barbs so that they fit down into your fret slot. We are going to use this as a fret slot depth checker. If you have bound your fretboard, this depth checker is not quite too late, but we're pretty late in the game. We really should have done a good job of fretting our slots deep enough to that 3.5 millimeter. If you haven't, there are ways to recover that. We can try scraping that out with a razor tip. You can use a very, very small dental burr or dental bit in your Dremel. You can grind down a saw blade and get that into there and try to scrape that deeper. If there's only glue, if we actually need to slot the entire fret slot deeper, then that is a real bugger, and there's not a lot of ways to do that other than setting up a template with a very, very small dental burr. Right now, I am going to check the fret depth, and mostly I'm concerned about glue squeeze out that we didn't get when we installed the bindings on the side. That's the most likely culprit. If you've gotten your fret slots to 3.5, there is almost certainly enough depth left in this after we radiused and leveled, but we do want to check everything anyway. So I'm going to take this, set that in the slot, and run it across the entire length. That looks good. 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 So you get the idea. I'm going to do that across the entire length, and then I'm going to flip this over and double check the bindings on this side, and then we will continue on with getting our frets prepared. All right, Now I've gone down and back up the fretboard, checked both sides along the bindings and the entire length, and I am good on depth. I hope you were as successful with that. If you didn't bind your fretboard and you didn't get your fret slots deep enough, then you are still okay. It's a laborious process, but you can come back through with a hand fret saw and finish cutting those and get those a little bit deeper. I did have a student ask me this week, and it's a good question, if it's not quite deep enough, can we pound our frets in or press them in hard enough for the ebony to give way a little bit and allow us to squeeze those frets into the wood? The answer is no. A resounding no. The ebony is too tough, too dense, and it will not allow anything to be pressed further into it. Our frets, although they're metal, they're a fairly soft metal, and they will not stand up to the pressure of trying to insert them into the ebony or even into hard glue. They will just deform, and they could start pressing the fret slots side to side and start destroying all the work that you've done. It's best to just get those deeper with a tool of some sort, whether it is a Dremel bit or a manual fret saw. You really need to get those fret slots deeper in order to install the frets correctly.
That's about it for our fretwork prep. We'll catch you in the next video.